Okay. So member access and inheritance. Okay. Although a subclass includes all of the members of its superclass, it cannot access those members of the superclass that have declared as private. See, now we have come across private access specifier because in classes and objects entire chapter and in strings entire chapter, they have not come across any of the access specifiers that is private, public, and protected. So if we have not declared the instance variables or methods of a class without that is without the access specifiers private, public, and protected, then it doesn't mean that it has no access. So there is one access called as a default access. That is no modifier access in Java. So we have three. We can think of like four access specifiers. Okay, that is as we know, like from C++, that is private. Okay, and then public. Okay, then third one protected. Okay, so whenever you use these things, those are the keywords. So we have to write all the letters in lowercase letters, private, public, and protected. See, fourth one, what we can say is like no modifier. No modifier means without using any of these access specifiers. That is called as no modifier, and it is also called as default access. Okay. The meaning of default access means like if you don't mention any of these access specifiers. Till now, what we have done, the same thing without using any of the access specifiers. The meaning of that is these things have some properties. See, when we declare variables of that is which belongs to private section or public section and protected sections, when we say these things have some properties, that is some rules. So when you declare in private, what happens? When you declare in public section, what happens, like that. Similarly, when you declare without access specifier, like neither private nor public or protected, then no modifier you have to consider. For no modifier also some properties is there. In packages chapter, I will tell you about clearly that. So where and all we can access those things, that is those instance variables or methods, when without declaring private, public, and protected. Okay, in packages chapter, that is next chapter only, packages is there. There I tell you about no access, that is default access. Okay. Now, according to this topic, so when we declare the instance variables as private, what happens we see. Okay. So in a class hierarchy, private members remain private to their class. This program contains an error and will not compile. Okay, and see what they're telling. Private, whenever we declare the instance variables and methods by using private access specifier, those things cannot be accessed. In C++ also same thing, right? When we declare private variables, private instance variables and methods cannot be accessed in so a subclass, that is another class. So here we will see in this program. So int I, see int I doesn't come in private, remember, because in C++, if you don't declare anything with no private, no public, and no protected, by default it will consider as private in C++. By default it will consider as private. But here you have to mention if you want to declare it as private. Okay, so I is not considered as private, but J is considered as private. Okay, next set ij. Set ij is a method, right? I is equals to x, j is equals to y. Next, and yes, j is not accessible here. See, yes, j means j variable which belongs to class A cannot be used in class B, right? Because you see the access specifier. Access specifier is private. Because access specifier is private, you cannot use a j variable. You can use I variable because I is not private or public or protected. It is no modifier. It comes in category no modifier. In the previous program we have used, right? Without declaring private, public, and protected. It is considered as no modifier. I variable can be used in class B, whereas j variable cannot be used in class B because it is private. So if you write this line, total is equals to I plus j, you will get error because j is not accessible here. So private variables cannot be used in subclass. Private variables of superclass cannot be used in subclass. Okay. Next, coming to the main method. Actually, this program contains an error. It will not execute, but still we will see. Even though it contains error, but we will see in main method what are the things present. B is a subclass. Sub-OB means it is an object of subclass. So B sub OB is equal to new B. Sub OB dot set ij. See, this we can do. There is no error because you just say set ij belongs to the class A. Set ij belongs to class A, and for this I have not declared private, public, and protected. Okay. One more thing here. See, you have declared private right here. This refers only to J variable, not set ij method. Remember, this refers only to J variable, not set ij. Okay. If you want to mention private, public, or protected for set ij, one more time you have to mention like this. Okay, or else if I want to take it in public section, one more time you have to mention like this, in this way. Okay. So if you don't mention anything, it is nothing but no modifier without access specifier. Without access specifier means we can access this method in class B. So only when you're using object of subclass and when you're using method of superclass, set ij is the method of superclass, sub ob is the object of subclass. So it can be accessible. There is no error. Similarly, okay, that is fine. Next, sub ob dot sum. Here there is no confusion because sub ob object belongs to subclass. Some method also belongs to subclass. So there is no confusion. You see, some method is present in class B. There is no confusion. Okay, it is calling. When this method is called, when program starts executing this method, when program control starts executing this method, in this line you will get error because J cannot be accessible. So only for this program I have not drawn memory representation because it is an error here. Only thing is, in this entire program, what you have to understand is, important thing is, when you declare instance variable or a method in private, you cannot access in subclass. This much you understand with respect to this program. When you declare instance variable or a method in a superclass by using private access specifier, it cannot be accessed in subclass. So J cannot be accessed here. Okay. So only this much about this program. Okay. So we'll see some explanation here. The above program will not compile because the reference to J inside some method of B causes an access violation since J is declared as private. Okay, it is only accessible by other members of its class. The subclasses have no access to it. Okay, so that is in the above program. Above program will not compile. First point they are telling because there is an error because the reference to J inside some method of B causes an access violation. Access violation means we are trying to access J variable which belongs to class K inside the class B. That is inside the method of class B, which we cannot access because it belongs to private access specifier. Since J is declared as private, it is only accessible by other members of its own class. Own class means superclass here. Own class is nothing but class K. Subclasses have no access to it. So from this entire program, conclusion is, if a variable or a method it is declared as private, then it cannot be used in subclass. So this important point you remember with respect to this program. If a method or a variable, if it is declared in private access specifier, it cannot be accessed in subclass. Okay. Note they have given. A class member that has been declared as private will remain private to its class. It is not accessible by any other code, by any code outside its class, including subclasses. Okay, you cannot access outside the class plus the subclasses. Outside the class means in main method also you cannot access, in subclass also you cannot access. Only within that class only you can access. Okay. Next. So one example we will see. So this program uses inheritance to extend box. So we will see whatever the class box we used in classes and object chapter, that same variables we are using here, same class we are using, but we are using the concept of inheritance here. Okay, class box, we have 3 instance variables, width, height, and depth with respect to class box. One important point what you have to keep on observing is about access specifiers. See here I have not mentioned private, public, and protected. So it comes under default access, no modifier section. Okay. Then volume method. This also comes in no modifier section. Okay. Here box is extended to include weight. Box is extended to include weight. Box weight extends box. I have taken one variable weight here. So weight of box, that is with respect to only box weight. Okay. constructor for box weight. Okay, so we'll just look at this thing, box weight constructor here with respect to this class. So we have parameterized constructor consisting of 4 variables w, h, d, and m. So for each one we store the values. In turn, these values are stored in instance variables with height, depth, and weight. Okay. Next, coming to the main method, demo box weight. See, when you are using multiple classes, you just make it clear, like I used class box, I used class box weight, and I used a demo box weight. So for this file name, you have to give it as you should give it as demo box weight.java, not box weight.java or box.java. You have to make it as demo box weight.java because main method is present inside the class demo box weight. Okay. So box my box 1 is equals to new box weight, box my box 2 is equals to new box weight. Okay, two objects we have declared, my box 1 with respect to box weight, my box 2 with respect to box weight. Okay, so what happens here is in both the cases constructors are called. You just observe here in the memory representation. So how the constructors are called. Okay. Okay. First thing what we have to observe is like superclass and subclass. Which is the superclass, which is the subclass, and what are the variables present in superclass, what are the variables present in subclass, and which variables we are inheriting. So in superclass, that is class box, we have width, height, and depth. So these variables are inherited, so that is extents. So only one more time you can write width, height, and depth. See, when you write the memory representation or the rough work, it's not like I have to write the data type here and you have to look at the syntax or nothing like that. It is a rough work. See how you have understood the program, in that way you can write. If you miss writing the data types here, that is also fine. It's not a wrong. Simply you can write width, height, and depth or WHND, whatever you want. Okay, just how you have understood the program, in that way you write. Okay. And in the class B, that is class box width, see, along with the depth weight variable, I have written width, height, and depth, which is from superclass. So once again, I'm writing because inherit. Okay. And method you see. Method means in box weight, we have the constructor, box weight constructor. In addition to the box weight constructor, you consider volume method also, which is from superclass because inheritance concept. Okay. Next, if you say, you just come to the right side part of the diagram, that is box weight my box 1 is equals to new box weight. This line you see, box weight my box 1 is equals to new box weight. So this is a constructor, box weight is a constructor. Okay. And parameterized constructor. So 4 parameters are present. 4 values you have to pass, either the variables or direct values. So I am passing the values 10, 20, 15, 34.3. Okay. Okay. So 10 will be copied to W, 20 will be copied to H, 15 will be copied to D, 34.3 will be copied to M. Okay. In turn, W will be copied to width, H will be copied to height, D will be copied to depth, M will be copied to weight. So only for my box 1 object, for variables width, height, and depth, you have to consider the values 10, 20, 15, and for weight 34.3. See, box weight for box weight class, if you look at the box weight class, only one variable is present, right? Only weight variable we have declared. But while storing what we have done, we have stored the values for width, height, and depth also. How? Because we have inherited. These variables we got it from box class, that is superclass. Superclass is box. Subclass is box weight. So from superclass we got these variables. So only we can store the values 10, 20, and 15. And weight with respect to box weight, that is 34.3. Next, one more time you can declare, one more object you can declare my box 2 is equals to new box weight of 2, 3, 4, 0.076. Some values I have taken. 2 will be copied to W, 3 to H, 4 to D, 0.076 to M. In turn, these values are copied to width, height, depth, and weight. So one more object will be created, one more memory we get it. So for width, height, and depth with respect to, width, height, and depth and weight with respect to my box 2 have the values 2, 3, 4, and 0.076 respectively. Okay. So this is about memory representation. So once you store the values for my box 1 and my box 2, then you can calculate the volume. See, how to calculate the volume is like on whichever variable you are calculating, on whichever object you are calculating the volume, you have to write that object name. See, volume is equals to my box 1 dot volume. See, my box 1 here invoking object. So these values are considered in the method volume. So where is volume method? It is present in superclass, but we are accessing by using object of subclass. That is possible, right? Because inheritance concept. Okay. So this wait method is called. Just a minute. Okay. So this wait volume method is called. When volume method is called, it displays the volume of my box one. So volume of my box one is 10 into 20 into 15. So volume of my box one is 10 into 20 into 15. And weight you can display separately because it will not come in volume, right? When you consider the cube, so we have to consider weight, height, and width, height, and depth. So separately you can display the weight of my box. Similarly, volume is equals to my box 2 dot volume. So second object values 2, 3, and 4. 2 into 3 into 4. Next you can display the weight separately. Okay. So this is the output. You just observe. So this is the output. Volume of my box 1 3000. Weight of my box 1 is 34.3. Volume of my box 2 is 24. Weight of my box 2 is equal to 0.076. See, rather than thinking of values, whether it is right or wrong, you just try to understand how the values are stored by using constructor and how those values are stored in particular objects, my box 1, my box 2. Okay. Okay, you can look at this diagram. So if you come across any doubts, you can ask. Okay, so we'll move further. Okay, so here it's not a complete program. Just they're telling about if you want to use one more variable in the subclass. So they have taken the subclass as color box, extends box. Okay, so one variable they have added here. Box is extended to include color. That means, see, when you consider the box, okay, if you consider the real world box, physical existence, which has got physical existence, if you consider width, height, and depth, in addition to width, height, and depth, you can consider weight. In addition to width, height, and depth, you can consider color. In that way, they are telling. That means, see, if you consider one particular object in real world, some properties will already exist. See, if you take like, for example, if I take pen, so pen will be having nib, cap, okay. In addition to that, if you want to put one design for that, so that is extra property, okay. If you want to write some design on the pen, that is one extra property that they are telling. So actually, if you consider the class box, we know that we have 3 dimensions: width, height, and depth, or which is common, okay. If you consider cubic box. In addition to width, height, and depth, if I want to add weight, okay. Once again, you need not write class box, width, height, and depth, weight. Once again, you need not write. Just you extend that box, just include weight. And if you want to add the color, just you extend that box, include color, like it. So that's the advantage of inheritance, okay. Instead of writing once again, so whatever it is already present, you consider that. So you just add the extra properties. So here they have taken color box as the subclass, extends box, adding one more extra property, that is nothing but the color. And this is the constructor used to store all the values. So here there is no complete program, just they're trying to explain about how you can add extra properties to the subclass. Okay. And this is the memory representation. Only for that purpose I have drawn the memory representation. You just look into it, memory representation. Class box, superclass, width, height, and depth, volume, extends. That means color box is subclass. For width, height, and depth, you can add one more property, that is color. Okay, and this is the constructor. Okay. Now we will move further. Okay. So before keyword super, the one keyword is called as super. So when a subclass needs to refer to its immediate superclass, it can do by using the keyword super. The keyword super has 2 general forms. First calls the superclass constructor. The second is used to access the member of the superclass that has been hidden by the member of subclass. So we will see what are these things. Using super to call constructor. Okay. A subclass can call a constructor defined by its superclass by using the following form of super. See, Keyword is super. Actually, the word is a keyword, but what they are doing, like using like a method here. Keyword is super, using like a method. One example I will give for you. In C and C++, we have, I don't know whether in Java we can use that or not, but I didn't try. There is a keyword called as size of. Okay, it is a keyword actually. How we use is like method we use, like function. If I say size of int, it will result in 2 bytes or 4 bytes, depending on the machine. Okay, in some machine 2 bytes, in some machine 4 bytes. Okay, for integer. And if the same keyword, if I use like size of float, okay, so it will result in 4 bytes. So size of means size of the data type. So for int, it can be 2 or 4 bytes. For float, it is 4 bytes. Size of char, 1 byte. Size of double, 8 bytes, like that. So actually size of is a keyword, but we are using like a method. Similarly, super also you have to understand like that only. Super is a keyword using like a method. So when you're using method like a method, compulsory have to mention whether it can whether it is used with arguments or without arguments. See, if suppose if I say super of like this, that is without arguments. So if you write super of argument list, that is with arguments. Okay. So whenever we say methods, we should say whether we are using method with an argument or without argument. Okay. The argument list specifies any arguments needed by the constructor in the super class. See, they are using the word needed. Needed means not compulsory. If it is needed, we have to use. So we have to see in the program. Next, super must always be the first statement executed inside a subclass constructor. See, whenever we say class, compulsory constructor function starts executing. Whether you write it or not, default constructor starts executing. And if we write our own constructor, that also executes. Okay. So when that is the case, in subclass also constructor will be there. In superclass also constructor will be there. Now, if I want to call the superclass constructor, I can make use of the keyword super. So in the example, you will come to know. Okay. See, box weight uses super to initialize its box objects. You see this class. So here only I have taken class. In the next thing, complete program is there. Okay. Class box weight extends box. Okay. Double weight of box. Next, initialize width, height, and depth by using super. See, the meaning of this is, you see this class box weight. Here I have not written width, height, and depth, right? So I have not declared width, height, and depth. But whether width, height, and depth is present or not in this, yes, it is present. How you can say it is present? You just look at extends box. In box class, it is present, right? Width, height, and depth. So only in this class also it is present. It is not visible here, but while executing, it will take. Understood? So only when you write the memory representation, you need to write like this. Then only we can understand. Width, height, and depth actually it is present in box class. And in box weight, whether we should consider it or not, yes, we have to consider. Why we can consider? Because of the keyword extends. So only in memory representation, I write width, height, and depth. Similarly, here also, even though I have not written width, height, and depth, but you have to consider width, height, and depth. When you are considering width, height, and depth of box class, then you have to give the values for width, height, and depth. How you can give the values for width, height, and depth? Either by creating an object in main method and giving the values, or by using the constructor. By using the constructor, you can give. You just see this constructor, how I have written. Box weight is a constructor. I have taken 4 parameters, W, H, D, and M, because I am considering width, height, and depth of box class plus weight of box weight class. Right? So W refers to width, H refers to height, D refers to depth, M refers to weight. Okay. Now, if you want to store the values for width, height, and depth, what you have to do? You should call the constructor of box. You should call the constructor of box. So how we should call the constructor of box? See, for example, if I write like this, box of WHD. The meaning of this is box is a constructor of box class. Box is a constructor of box class. See, instead of writing the class name here, what they have done, they are using the keyword called as a super. Okay, when you use the keyword super, it will call the super class constructor. Here, box weight is a subclass, box is a super class. Now, if I want to call the constructor of super class, then I have to use the keyword super. And one more thing, what is the important point here is, you just look at the sentences. Super must always be the first statement executed in the subclass constructor. The meaning of that is you cannot write weight is equals to m first like this. And the just a minute. Nah, you should not write like this. That means writing super keyword as a second or in the middle of the constructor. You cannot write. So super, the word super should be the first statement in the subclass constructor. So only, so we have to write first super keyword, then weight is equals to m. Then this will call the superclass constructor. So in this program you will come to know very much clearly with memory representation also I have done. So we'll see what it is. In the above example, super was called with 3 arguments. Since constructor can be overloaded, super can be used using any form defined by the superclass. The constructor executed will be the one that matches the arguments. So in this program, you will come to know detailed program is there about super keyword. See, program by program length is increasing. Okay, so the thing is, if without seeing I'm writing the program, that is not the thing of learning programming. Even though you write with seeing program, the thing is you have to understand the program, that's all. So only program length will be more, we should understand the program correctly. Okay, that's the intention of learning programming language. Now, we will see what are the things present. In class box, 3 variables, width, height and depth. Okay, width, height and depth is there. So which are declared as private. See, just overview of this program I will tell. Tomorrow we will see in detail. Okay, because it takes a little bit time. Okay. Then construct clone of an object. So box constructor is there. Box OB. See, whenever you write constructor, in this way also you can write. See, box is a constructor name. Box is a class name. 2 times I have written box, right? Box, first time you should consider it as a constructor name. Second time inside parenthesis you have to consider it as a class name, because OB is an object. So only you have to consider it as a class name. So don't get confusion here. First time consider it as a constructor name. Second time consider it as a class name. So that means OB object is created. That is object reference is created. Next, pass object to the constructor. Next. See, this is called constructor overloading. Constructor overloading means multiple constructors we have to use, but there should be change in the number of parameters or the data type of the parameters. See, in the first constructor I have used one parameter which is of type object. In the second constructor, 3 parameters of type double. In the next constructor, no parameters. In the next constructor, 1 parameter with double type. So this is called, this functionality is called as constructor overloading. Using multiple constructors. When you say multiple constructors means same name will be there, of course. Method name will be same. But different number of parameters are different data type. Okay, different data type of parameters. Okay. So second constructor I have used in this way. Third constructor with no parameters. Constructor used when no dimensions are specified. So width equal to, height equal to, depth equal to -1. Next, constructor used when cube is created. So in C, class and object chapter also we have used in this way. I hope you people remembering. Okay. Next, volume is there, volume method. Now we will say a subclass. In subclass, what we are doing? Okay. Box weight extends box. Box weight, one constructor is there, same like box class only. See, first time when you are writing box weight, understand it as a constructor name. In the parenthesis when you are writing, understand it as a class name, because OB is an object here. Okay. Next, pass object to the constructor. Okay. Here this sentence should come first here. See, super OB. See, how you have to understand this line is like this. Wherever you come across the word super, understand it as superclass constructor. Superclass constructor means superclass is box class. Constructor is box. Class name and constructor name will be same, right? So superclass here is box. Constructor is box. Class name and constructor name should be same. In this way, we have to understand. So instead of writing box OB, they are writing it as super of OB, because super keyword they have developed to make use of like that only. That is calling the constructors, superclass constructors. Okay. Next, weight is equals to OB dot weight. Coming to the second constructor, box weight. So W, H, D and M. So super of W, comma H, comma D. So here word super is nothing but referring to the box constructor. Word super is nothing but referring to the box constructor. That is super class constructor. Okay. Next, coming to the third one, box weight. So super, again, referring to the super class constructor. Box weight, double length, double M. So super of length, referring to the box constructor. So in the main program, see here, in the main method, we are creating objects, my box 1, my box 2, my box 3, my cube, my clone. We are creating the objects just like how we have created in the class and objects chapter only. One more extra thing is whenever box weight constructor is called, automatically box constructor is called. Okay, whenever box weight constructor is called, automatically box constructor is called. Okay. Next, we are calculating the volume of the box and we are displaying the weight of the box. Okay, just a minute. So this is the output of the program. Okay. Now, with respect to memory representation and explanation of the program, so we will see tomorrow. Okay, because it takes time. So I will explain neatly. You just look at the memory representation. So for the same program, in 3 ways I have drawn. That means 3 steps here. So this is the first step, what we have to understand. Next, this is the second step, how we have to understand. And the last one is, this is the third step. Okay. So we will see tomorrow. So neatly we will try to understand. By taking some 15-20 minutes, we will try to understand how exactly this works. Okay.